is Wednesday, September 18th, 2019. I'll just wait a second. You guys, this video is sponsored by Noble Gold. Amazing sponsor. Helps my channel so much, helps me do what I do. Anyway, you guys look at it, Donald Trump has made an absolutely massive impact on the world stage in the 3 years that he's been in office. He tackled Kim Jong-un, right in North Korea, China in the trade war, offered to buy Greenland for the United States. And he hasn't even only done stuff overseas. He's done so much here. Ongoing battle to drain the swamp, which we're going to talk a lot about today. The Mueller report and fighting back against all that nonsense. The wall is being built. Noble Gold has this amazing best-selling Trump 2020 Freedom 0.999 fine solid silver coin and a United We Stand 10-ounce solid silver bullion bar together in one package at a discounted price, and you guys can get it. Most popular combo that they have, and it's really beautiful stuff. You guys can go to TrumpCoin2020.com, get the use the code TracyBeans25 to save $25 on the package. TrumpCoin2020.com. and save $25 with my code TracyBeans25. Definitely support these guys. They're awesome. And they help me a lot. So with that, let's get on to the news. So I did the podcast with Frank today, and it's been about 5 days since I've been here. Hi, guys, everybody. Good to see you. Lots of stuff to talk about. We did the podcast today. If you guys don't know, we have a podcast. Frank from the Quite Frankly podcast and I do the Dark to Light podcast Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 2:30 Eastern. It airs on TuneIn, on Stitcher, on Google Podcasts, on iTunes, and on radioinfluence.com. And hello, everyone out there. If you're listening to this played back, I love talking to people. You guys are fantastic. I'm saying hello to everyone out there. And on the podcast today, we spent the first half hour or so on Corey Lewandowski, who's the first thing that everybody's talking about today in the chat as we come live. We did clips, we talked about it, we went over things. I am open to doing that again because we have some fantastic folks on Twitter that have compiled some tweets and some clips. If you guys want to do that, just hit the number 1. If you think that that's a waste of time, hit the number 2. And as I see those answers fly in, I'll alter my broadcast schedule for today to cover that if you guys want me to, because it was something, that's for sure. What I wanted to talk about today were several topics. I want to talk about McCabe. I want to talk, wow, lots of ones. Okay. I want to talk about McCabe. I want to talk about the Horowitz hearing from a little bit earlier. I want to talk about Ed Buck, and I want to talk about the article written by the absolutely amazing Celia Farber, who wrote this piece for Uncover DC that is just heartbreaking. And then at the end of that, I'm going to talk about Corey Lewandowski, because you guys clearly, especially on Twitter, want Corey Lewandowski to be talked about. And there's YouTube chiming in too. All right, so we'll do it. We'll do some Corey Lewandowski at the end. And let's get started so we can just motor through all this stuff. So we got the news about McCabe. I covered all that stuff last week. And then we got Natasha Bertrand here, who posted a leaked letter from Andrew McCabe's legal team that came out on the 13th, which was about 5 days ago. This letter was leaked quite obviously to Bertrand from Bromwich, who was McCabe's attorney, and also represented Christine Blasey Ford. And that's a whole different topic. There's a whole nother thread on that. I could sit here talking to you guys for two hours today. So this letter says to the DOJ, well, we haven't seen an indictment yet, so it's obvious that there won't be an indictment, and we're operating, this assumption that we're operating on comes from some rumors from the press. And so it says, as we note in our email, we heard rumors from reporters starting this morning that the grand jury considering charges against McCabe declined to vote an indictment. We don't know the specific basis for them, but they were credible enough that the New York Times and Washington Post published stories suggesting that the grand jury may have declined to vote in favor of charges. That is absolutely not even possible. And Dan Bongino did a great job on his podcast last week, if you guys don't listen, of explaining why it's not possible. The whole ham sandwich thing, the DOJ can bring this case back, ask the grand jury what they missed, fill in the holes that they may have. You need 12 members of the grand jury to indict, and there are 23 members of most grand juries anyway. So they're saying that there was a no true bill, which I don't believe that this is the case. I think that this is political spin, and they're using the media to get out in front of what is obviously going to happen, which is an impending indictment on McCabe. And I think that I have a little bit more background to prove that to you in the Horowitz hearing from today as well. So this comes out, and of course, everybody was very confused about what it meant, including myself. I read through it. I tried to do some digging. And finally, I got this amazing article here from Andrew McCabe, which was fantastic. I'm not Andrew McCabe, Andrew McCarthy. My apologies. And the article says the title is Why It's Unlikely the McCabe Grand Jury Voted Against Indictment. And it is so well done. I'm going to link this in the YouTube description, but you guys on Twitter have seen me tweet it. It says, despite swirling rumors, there is no reason to infer a grand jury has rejected a proposal indictment of Andrew McCabe. In coverage of the Andrew McCabe investigation, there seems to be a lot of adding 2 + 2 and coming up with 5. And here he addresses the rumors that we just spoke about that were leaked to Natasha Bertrand to print, to try and sway public opinion, get out in front of things. The New York Times and Washington Post reported that a grand jury met on Thursday in connection with the probe into McCabe. As I write this column on Friday evening, McCarthy says no indictment has been returned against McCabe. And from this and what seems to be some sort of hopeful speculation about, quote, hints of the case's weaknesses, which is absolutely nonsense, that could possibly have caused grand jurors to, quote, balk. The Times and the Post suggest that maybe the grand jury voted against an indictment. This supposition prompted a letter to the Justice Department from McCabe's attorney, Michael Bromwich, former colleague of McCarthy's, Democrat, represented Blasey Ford. Bromwich says he's hearing rumors from reporters about a no true bill or the grand jury rejecting a proposed indictment of McCabe. So while conceding he doesn't know the specific basis for those rumors, Bromwich thinks they have to be reliable because the newspapers printed it. Mind you, neither the Times nor the Post claims to have been told by anyone that they declined to indict McCabe, especially not anyone on the grand jury. And they don't even report that there was any leaks that there was a no true bill. But McCabe's legal team is demanding the Justice Department disclose whether an indictment was declined and refrain from seeking one in the future, as if these attorneys have any sway to do that after they've been shoved away several times over and over again in their quest to stop the incoming storm that is on their way down for McCabe. So what he says is, the criminal probe of McCabe stems from an investigation by Horowitz of the leaks to the Wall Street Journal, which we've gone over several times, specifically that the FBI was investigating the Clinton Foundation. McCabe lied in several interviews by FBI agents and then to the Inspector General Horowitz. As is required when the IG turns up evidence of any potential criminal conduct, it was referred to the Justice Department for consideration of whether or not they should even press charges against McCabe. Now, you've seen several times where you refer charges over to the DOJ from Michael Horowitz, and they say the DOJ declined to press charges on this count. Well, in this case, they actually considered them. the matter ends up in the U.S. Attorney's Office for the District of Columbia because that is where the alleged crime took place. Therefore, Jesse Liu decided there's enough evidence to charge felonies in the case. Bromwich was permitted to appeal the decision to the DOJ, to Jeffrey Rosen, who's the Deputy Attorney General, and then Rosen was unpersuaded by that. So the Justice Department told the McCabe defense team that their appeal was rejected and any other questions should go to Liu. It was assumed when that happened on Thursday that the DOJ's rejection was the last hurdle standing in the way of charges coming down, which is why you saw every single person on Twitter and everywhere else, including myself, jumping up and down saying, holy moly, this is insanity. We're actually going to get some justice here. So McCarthy goes on and says that there is no competent federal prosecutor who should ever get a no true bill from a grand jury. He tells us that in nearly 20 years, it never happened to him. He could only count on one hand the number of times he heard it happening to anyone else, and he still has fingers to spare. So like maybe once or twice. That's not because... He's basically saying the charges don't result in no true bills. There's a dialogue between the grand jury and the U.S. attorney, and they give them the stuff that they don't have to make the decision, and it's a back and forth. Moving on in this amazing article, he basically states that double jeopardy is not in play in a grand jury, and that there are probably and likely there could be other things that McCabe is in there on right now, that it's just not this one thing, that there's other things that are in front of this. So we don't know if the false statements are the only matters under consideration, or even if McCabe is the only subject of the grand jury's investigation. He says it's possible the grand jury hasn't been asked to indict because there's still more conduct under consideration, maybe not related just to McCabe, maybe related to other suspects, or just McCabe, or both. And then there's prejudice in the IG Horowitz FISA report, et cetera, so on and so forth. So McCarthy makes a fantastic argument here where you see crazy flurry of activity from McCabe's attorneys trying to get out in front of what is going to be a absolutely nightmarish scenario for him. And then after this article is posted, we got these tweets, one of which was deleted on the 16th, which was 2 days ago, again from Bertrand. McCabe's spokesperson puts out I guess this is a document that is listing the number of character witnesses who will testify in a trial. So we went from their attorneys saying, well, there's not going to be any indictment, to all of a sudden the attorneys and spokespeople from McCabe's, saying, here's a list of people that are going to testify as a character witness for McCabe. Well, if there's not going to be an indictment, why would you even need to bother with this at all? You wouldn't. He names on here Eric Holder, John Brennan, James Clapper, David Cohen, John Cohen, who else? Mary McCord, Lisa Monaco, Susan Rice, Kathleen Rumler. These names should all make sense to you. So Bertrand runs with this story that's in Politico, and then all of a sudden, right after it's posted, she puts an update. McCabe's spokesperson now says Brennan, Rice, and Holder will not be testifying as character witness for him after all, despite calling the full witness list accurate just a few hours ago. So now all of a sudden we've got Brennan, Rice, and Holder saying they're stepping away from this. They won't be testifying as character witnesses on behalf of Andrew McCabe. And one has to wonder why. There are a gazillion different reasons why, none of which weighs more heavily than the other. So I sort of don't even want to speculate about why. But you guys can put two and two together and come up with a list of reasons why these folks decided that they're going to step away from Andrew McCabe's character, being a character witness for McCabe. And then we had today a number of hearings that were going on at the same time that really confused me. A bunch of kind folks on Twitter provided me the link because I was really only concerned with Michael Horowitz. There was a FISA oversight hearing, I believe, going on. The Democrats are a bunch of they're just horrible people. They were impugning the FISA abuse scandal that's ongoing, trying to say that Donald Trump called the members of the intelligence community Nazis. It was just a travesty. I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed. I was grossed out and disgusted watching it, and I shut it off. They're absolutely horrible. There is not a true word that comes out of their mouths, and they are covering up the biggest scandal in American history to save their own hides. Because if this comes out, and everyone agrees that Horowitz is unswayed by politics, which is true. Both sides of the aisle have said it several times, and this comes out to be what we think it will be and know it will be. That is really bad for them, because they've spent the past 3 years, impugning the character and trying a soft coup on the president of the United States. We will get into the Lewandowski hearing at the end. So 2 things I pulled out from this hearing today with Horowitz that I wanted to focus on. The first clip is at 54:38. We'll start here.
Draft of our report for classification marking purposes. So what the percentages precisely will.
Sorry, I should give some background. What Horowitz is talking about right here is how much of the report is classified and how much is not, and what the process is right now that they're going through to get that stuff. Horowitz was, I don't know the exact reason for the hearing he was in today. It was not to talk about the Pfizer report. It was to talk about other things with the, I think it was the House committee. I don't know which committee it was that he was in. But anyway, he was talking to, he was speaking to other things. There were a lot of questions asked by Jordan and others and Meadows about the Jim Comey report. There were questions asked about the McCabe report, but that wasn't the reason why he was there. And that's why a lot of people I'm seeing in the comments saying he couldn't answer questions, he couldn't answer this. The reason why he was not able to answer those questions as quickly and rapidly as he normally would is because he wasn't in there for that, and they were asking him very specific minutia of the reports that he had done on Andrew McCabe more than a year ago now, a year and a half ago, and on Comey, which was a very long report, and without it in front of you, if you misspeak in front of that microphone, it's a big problem. So that's not indicative of anything, literally, nothing at all. So let's listen. Yeah, another person's pointing out, too, that there were 90% empty seats. The Democrats were not there. There was one Democrat there. I think it was Raskin. No one else was there. It was really sad because this is important, more important than I think anything going on right now outside of like core issues. So here we go. Let's listen to what he has to say about classification.
Depend on what the Attorney General and the Department and the FBI decide after they evaluate it. And that's the process it's in right now.
Okay, are you working with the Department of Justice to have some of that declassified?
Right now, what we've done is meet with the folks at the Justice Department and the FBI to tell them what we've done so far. They have the draft of the factual information that we've developed. We've talked through the classification issues with them, but it's ultimately up to them to decide what's going to be marked and how it's going to be marked or how it's not going to be marked.
What's coming right now is very important, and it references John Durham, so let's listen.
That's normal process. That's how it would occur. We may weigh in once we see it back as to what our views are,
okay.
As to any disagreements.
So there could be a point that you would weigh in.
That's correct.
Okay.
That is usual process. These rarely go in a one straight line process. Okay.
Gotcha. Regarding Attorney John Durham, are y'all in any discussions about what he's finding and what you have found?
I'm going to defer to him and the Attorney General on that issue as to what they're doing. I have had communications with him, but it's really they're a separate entity that he's working on the direction of the Attorney General. I'm obviously independent.
Do you know if he has found any of the same concerns that you were concerned about?
You'd have to ask him on what he's found. I'm not in a position to speak for him.
So that's one of the more interesting things to come out. There's definitely been communications of what kind, we're not sure. And so there's been communications between Horowitz and John Durham, the U.S. attorney from Connecticut working on the criminal aspect of all of this stuff. That's a good sign. The other things that I heard in this hearing that I was listening to in terms of James Comey and the memos, that's all stuff that was documented in the report that was just like reaffirmed for everyone. So those weren't really very blockbuster. There was one line in here, one line that got me. And I'm going to show you where it is. 55 minutes and 39 seconds. Wait, that can't be right. Oh, 1 hour and 6 minutes, I think it was. How did I mess that up? Hold on. Here we go. Listen closely.
Okay. Why was he referred?
We made
And Mr. Horowitz, I'm going to kind of pick up where Mr. Heiss left off. He was asking you about the fact.
But by the time the issue came to be, it was after August 1st, which is, I think, the August 1st of 2017, which is, I think, the date of Director Ray's installation.
Okay, and why did you refer him for criminal prosecution, McCabe? Why was he referred?
We made as the public report, I'll stick to what's public, the public report.
Did you hear that? Why was McCabe referred for criminal prosecution? I'm going to back up 10 seconds and play it again.
Why did you refer him for criminal prosecution?
He's being asked why he referred McCabe for criminal prosecution, and I have my sound jacked out all the way up. There's really nothing that we can do about that. That's the way Fox broadcasts the sound, so bear with the sound. He asks, why did he refer McCabe for criminal prosecution, and Horowitz says the following.
McCabe, why was he referred?
We made as the public report, I'll stick to what's public, the public report.
As the public report states, I'll stick to what's public, the public report. Now, that's what tells me that there is more. Because he mentions we'll stick to what's public, there's something that's not. And that was really important. Because that again alludes back to what McCarthy was saying about the grand jury being a little bit more complicated than what we've been led to believe it could be publicly. And guess what, guys? That's the way investigations and grand jury investigations and grand jury hearings are supposed to be run. So there's more. He just basically reviews what goes on after that, you know, everything we know already. So that's that. The other hearings today, I guess, you know what, maybe we will move into Lewandowski now just to get that out of the way. I'll go over some clips with you guys. I'm going to go right to my friend here because he does a great job for me. I wasn't prepared for this, so bear with me, guys. Here's some. What did I play on the show today? Hold on. You know what? I should just do a Lewandowski video. I hate to make you guys sit here while I scroll. I feel like I don't know why you need me to chime in on this. Do you really need me to chime in on Lewandowski and what a great job he did yesterday? This one was great. Let's do this.
I said, is alone in the Oval Office with the president.
Oh, this one's great because there's a specific thing that happens here. There's a specific thing that happens here to Nadler. If you watch him towards the middle to the 3/4 mark of the clip, you'll see it. Let's go.
I said,
Is there a book and page number you can reference me to, please? I don't have a copy of the report in front of me.
Volume 2, page 90. But I simply ask you, is it correct that as reported in the Mueller report on June 19th, 2017, you met alone in the Oval Office with the president?
Could you read the exact language of the report, sir? I don't have it available to me.
I don't think I need to do that, and I have limited time. Did you meet alone with the president on that date?
Congressman, I'd like you to refresh.
Let me stop for a second. I'm sorry. Every single one of these gentlemen and whoever they are up there are puppets. They have a hand of their staff up their backs, and their little social justice warrior staffers are conducting these hearings. I just want you guys to know. You know that already, I'm sure, but you'll be able to see they don't know how to go off script. So if there's a rebuttal, or if there is a detailed response which asks them to clarify, they don't know what to do. They don't know how to answer. They don't know the material. He has no idea why he's asking this question right now. I can almost guarantee he doesn't really understand what the purpose is of it. He was just told to do it.
Refresh my memory by providing a copy of the report so I can follow along.
Hey, you don't have a copy with you?
I don't have a copy of the report, Congressman.
Clock will
Mr.
stop.
Chairman, I request that the clock be stopped while this
I just asked
charade
that.
is sorted out.
Now, Nadler has no patience whatsoever. And it's, there's one thing that I kind of get chuckles out of with Nadler. It's that even when people on his side kind of poke him or whatever, he rolls his eyes at them and he's like, "Oh, I just did that. Can you please stop it?" Like, he'd be in the middle of calling for a point of order or whatever. And then he'll get mad at you'll see. Hold on.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm sorry, Congressman, what page was it?
The clock should have been stopped and should remain stopped. Page 90, volume 2.
Did you see the person on the left here whisper to him what page? Now listen closely.
Okay, and which paragraph, sir?
I don't have it in front of me.
I'd like a reference, sir, so I can follow along on what you're asking.
Do you not?
This man here just whispered to him, "Do you not have any independent recollection?" And then right out of Puppet Man's mouth comes, "Do you not have any independent recollection?" Listen carefully. I don't know if you'll be able to hear it.
Do you not have an independent recollection of?
Too far.
Do you not have an independent recollection?
Oh, come on.
Sir, so I can follow along on what you're asking.
Do you not have an independent recollection of whether you met with the president on that date?
Congressman, I'm just trying to find in the Mueller report where it states that.
Well, you have it in front of you. I gave you the page number.
Okay, where on page 90 is it, sir?
Mr. Chairman, you got to start the clock.
No, I don't have to start the clock.
No,
when
I
he's still
don't.
about-
I do not. I do not have to start the clock. Listen, he was fed the line to say. He has no idea what he's doing. Let's see if we find more. Oh, this one's good. This one's good.
To unrecuse himself from the special counsel's investigation. Sessions said no.
Now, let's all remember that Sheila Jackson Lee, in the middle of the Kavanaugh hearings, passed an envelope to the attorneys. Do you guys remember that? I do.
White House counsel said there should be no contact with Sessions because of his recusal. So what does the president do? He calls you in to do what everyone else wouldn't do. He called you in to do his dirty work in secret because he knew it was wrong. Well,
so now Nadler's trying to stop her from going on and on and on, yelling over her the time is up. This woman laughs at things. She's funny. I don't know who she is.
we will expose the truth. The president cannot hide behind you any longer. And you should be here to be telling the truth, Lewandowski, because the truth will set you free.
The truth will set you free, says Sheila Jackson Lee. The truth will set you free. Sure will, lady. It sure will. And it's about to. This is the thing. The only question they can ask him, basically, the entire day that he's up here, the only question is that they're asking him about is a dictated note that he wrote down he was supposed to give to Sessions that asked Sessions to make a statement that said that he was being unfairly targeted by Mueller, which, if everybody knows, is true. Corey Lewandowski didn't do that. He did not take the letter and give it to Jeff Sessions. Period. End of story. Even if he did, it's not a crime. So it doesn't even matter. But he didn't do it. And that is what they have this man up here for right now, sitting here over and over, the same damn question about whether or not the president told. It's just so stupid. I mean, it really is. This was the biggest waste of time. And if Lewandowski, I wish that everybody who is going to have to sit down in front of these people, all of them are there for this hearing. You notice? I wish that everybody who had to sit down in front of these people did exactly what Corey Lewandowski did yesterday.
And the American people. I yield back.
The time of the gentlelady has expired. The witness may answer the question.
I don't believe there was a question, Congressman.
Very well.
Yes, there was.
Could you repeat the question? I didn't hear it.
I'd be happy to repeat the
Just
question.
a rant.
It was just a rant.
The gentlelady's time has expired. The gentleman from...
Did you know the Attorney General
Look at-
recused?
Look at all the people. Look at all the people back here they need. They can't do anything themselves. They need all these people to help them. All your tax dollars hard at work.
The gentleman from Ohio.
He called the Attorney General to...
There's that. Did you catch Jaya Paul at the end? I think that was her. Yeah, look at her face. This is good. Let's listen to
the words
this one.
that President Trump dictated to you on July 19. Can you read what you wrote down?
I'm happy to have you read it, Congressman.
Well, why don't you want to read it, Mr. Lewandowski?
I think you should afford me the same privilege you afforded Director Mueller.
Would you like to read it?
No, you're welcome to read it.
Are you ashamed of the words that you wrote down?
President Swalwell, I'm very happy of what I've written, but you're welcome to read it.
Let's just everybody give a moment.
If you'd like.
Are you ashamed to read it out loud?
I'm not ashamed of anything in my life, Congressman. Are you?
Then why don't you read the words?
Congressman, I've asked and answered your
Mr.
question.
Lewandowski, why won't you read the words aloud?
I've asked and answered your question, Congressman. If you'd like to read the words, you're welcome to.
Well, you were ashamed to read them out loud, and you didn't deliver those words to the person the president asked you to. Did you have a consciousness of guilt?
I have nothing to be guilty of, Congressman. Thank you.
You still feel guilty today, and that's why you can't read it out loud?
Congressman, you're welcome to read the words if you'd like.
Well, I just wonder why you can't.
I have the capacity to, Congressman. I'll give you the privilege.
I'll give you the privilege of reading my words. I'll give you the privilege.
You said the president did nothing wrong. Why can't you read those words right now? Why can't you read them aloud?
Congressman, tell me why you hold me to a different standard than the previous witnesses who sat here.
There was more. He says that he has a lot of guns in the safe where he kept the, Oh, this one was good. This is good.
Fire. Do you agree there is no evidence the president intended to obstruct justice?
I do.
Do you agree that the president has been harassed politically since the day he took office?
Yes, I do.
Do you agree that the president's supporters have received vastly different treatment than the supporters of Hillary Clinton?
Unequivocally.
You've called this a witch hunt, and I wonder if you'd like to elaborate on that any further.
I think that this fake Russia collusion narrative is the greatest crime committed against the American people in our generation, if not ever. This is a president who was duly elected by the American people, and members of certain bodies refuse to accept those election results. If this were done by a different president to a different party, the same way it was done to Donald Trump, that person would already be thrown out of office and people would be in jail. But when you support Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama, there's a different set of rules. I think the American people find it very unfair, and there's been no accountability at the highest levels of the government for the Pfizer abuse applications which transpired, the spying on Americans clearly in violation of the Fourth Amendment, or the lives that were ruined because they simply wanted to support a candidate for president of the United States, and I think it's shameful.
We do as well, and that's a pretty good recitation of some of the issues that are keeping us up at night. Part of the thing that we're greatly concerned about is the American people's distrust now of our institutions. When people begin to doubt that the rule of law actually applies equally, that justice really is blind in this country, then we reach somewhat of a tipping point. It's very difficult to put that genie back in the bottle, and we're concerned. I know the Republicans and the conservatives on this committee are deeply concerned about the eroding faith in our institutions. I'm thankful that you've come to take the hostile fire today. I commend you for that. I commend you for your story being self-made. And one of the things I'm also concerned about is young people who are watching.
I think that's good. We know. Yeah, yesterday also a car smashed into Trump Plaza in New Rochelle, New York. So there's that. Let's move on to the next story from our Corey Lewandowski, who did a great job of trolling the hell out of the liberals yesterday in that hearing. Ed Buck charged with running a drug den in West Hollywood apartment. Listen, the headline, the way they write this, the way they frame it is just, it makes me kind of sad because it's not what it is. There's a couple people that have done really amazing work on this. Rosie Memos on Twitter, Almost Jingo is her Twitter handle, has done a fantastic job covering Ed Buck from the very beginning. There have been people that died. This is a criminal gentleman. Not gentleman. He's not even a gentleman. This is a criminal man who has funded max contribution, as per Richard Barris, to Ted Lieu, Schiff, Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, and Kyrsten Sinema, who's taking some fire from her Democrat colleagues, which we could talk about as well. But all of this stuff, they're all in the same little group. They all tie in together. There's connections between everything. Listen, there are some high-level politicians that virtue signal at you, telling you how horrible you are, who are taking this man's money, and he brings gay, underprivileged, homeless men, many times with drug and alcohol issues that are really not doing well, and he abuses them, and then they die. And this time, the gentleman that was in his apartment didn't die. He made it out of there alive, which is something in and of itself. Let me move this. That's not what I wanted to do. Prominent Democratic donor and LGBTQ plus activist Ed Buck was charged Tuesday with running a drug den out of his West Hollywood apartment and providing methamphetamine to a 37-year-old man who suffered an overdose last week. Now, it's interesting because there is absolutely no connection between Donald Trump and this man. And what does the headline say? Which I'm really surprised, and pleasantly so, that they're talking about this the way that they are, because he was huge in the Democrat community. He was charged with one felony count of battery. And there's something interesting in here that I don't think many people saw. Are we ready? Now, I have not read California felony complaints or arrest warrants before. So this is the first time, but I want to go through this with you because it's linked. On or about September 11th, 2019 in LA, the crime of battery with serious bodily injury in violation of 243D, which is a felony, was committed by Edward Peter Buck, who did willfully and unlawfully use force and violence upon the person of Joe Doe, they're not saying his name, resulting in the infliction of serious bodily injury on such person. It goes on and it talks about the sale or transportation of a controlled substance that he furnished, administered, gave away, offered to transport or import in an attempt to sell or transport a controlled substance, which is methamphetamine. Then they say the crime of maintaining place for selling or using controlled substance in violation of a health and safety code, which was a felony, was committed by Edward Buck, who did maintain a place for the purpose of unlawfully selling, giving away, and using a controlled substance. I think that there should be attempted murder charges on here, but look, I'm going to try and make this bigger. Notice conviction of this offense will require DNA samples. Notice, I think this is just general. I don't think that this is anything important. I'm going to change it because I didn't read it right. But what got me originally, let's just talk about what got me originally. This. A suspected child abuse report may have been generated with the meaning of Penal Code 11166 and 11168 involving the charges alleged in this complaint. Dissemination of a SCAR, or a suspected child abuse report, is and a court order is required for full disclosure of the contents of one. I do not know if this is a standard notice that goes in every single one of these. But the gentleman who overdosed because of Ed Buck was 37 and was not a child. So I don't know what that is. Maybe that is something that is commonly attached to those two penal codes, and that's why they're including it on here. That's weird because I don't see them. 11166, 11168. Bear with me. Real-time investigating. Yeah, I don't see those two penal codes even in here. Interesting. I'll have to follow up on this. But Ed Buck was arrested, and he's in jail, and they're asking for $4 million bail. He used the bait of narcotics, money, and shelter to lure victims to his home, where in a position of power, he manipulates his victims into participating in his sexual fetishes. According to the motion, his actions led to the death of two men in his apartment, Jamel Moore and Timothy Dean. Moore died in July of 2017. They ruled it an accidental meth overdose. I wonder if they will go back and fix that stuff now. And then on January 7th, 2019, Timothy Dean was also found dead at Buck's home, which was also ruled an accidental meth overdose. I don't understand how the corrupt I just don't understand how, given that this has happened now again, they wouldn't go back to those other two cases and consider opening them up again. The maximum sentence is 5 years and 8 months in prison. From there, I want to move on to something gross and horrible. If you have not seen the article on Uncover DC this morning by Celia Farber titled Grisly Facts Unmask and Weaken Big Abortion, which is now demonetized this video for sure, you need to get over there and read this and share it. I have been following this case for a while, and Celia and I sat and talked about what we were going to be covering for Uncover DC, and she put forth this story, and she did a lot of work into this, and I have not seen very many people covering it. I haven't seen, this is the story of the Center for Medical Progress, which is the outlet that caught Planned Parenthood and STEM Express in conversations about the selling of fetal body parts after abortions. It's a hard piece. I have not seen, because right now they're in court. So right now, the two authors of the two people who recorded from Center for Medical Progress, I think you say his name, Delayden, and I know it's obviously Merritt, but Delayden and Merritt are sitting in a preliminary hearing right now in LA, waiting to find out if they will be prosecuted on criminal charges for recording that stuff. And this has been the trial, or what's going on, the hearings that are going on right now have been covered on very few websites. I think Court Listener, obviously Center for Medical Progress is covering it. LifeSite News, I believe, has had it, but that's it. I haven't seen it anywhere else. And this is an article that Celia wrote that kind of encapsulates everything. It is painful. It is painful. I'll just go through some of it for you guys. And yes, that's the guy that Kamala Harris had arrested. And it gets into what Kamala Harris's role in all of this is. And it gets into the role of Jerry Nadler. And it gets into the role of Fusion GPS. Because all of those things are also in this story. For years, abortion clinics, including but not limited to Planned Parenthood, have partnered with biotech companies to procure parts after abortions. And they take the fetuses for very little and they sell them for a lot of money. And there is a Senate report that's titled human fetal tissue research context and controversy that was done. And page 3 of the report, as per Celia Farber on Twitter, you can follow her. She's our contributing reporter at Uncover DC, states, since 2010, 3 companies, Advanced Bioscience Resources, STEM Express, and Novogenics, which I think 2 of them are out of business now, have paid Planned Parenthood affiliates to acquire aborted fetuses and subsequently sold the fetal tissue to their respective customers at higher prices than their documented costs. The details are harrowing and heartbreaking. On one day in June of 2014, the report states that an ABR technician obtained a 20-week-old fetus at a Planned Parenthood clinic for which it paid $60. From that, ABR sold the brain for $325, the eyes for $325 each, a portion of its liver for $325, the thymus for $325, and another portion of its liver for $325, and then a lung for $325. They got the fetus at 9 a.m., and by 1 p.m. in 4 hours, ABR had earned $6,825 from the aborted baby that was sold to them by Planned Parenthood. So Daladian began his, I'm saying his name wrong, I know I am, Daladian, I'm not sure, began his massive research project after 2012 when he watched a documentary where a procurer turned whistleblower said that he would get them still alive. It is a horrible, horrible, horrible thing that I can't even talk about. It's horrible. I can't talk about it. It's... So once he saw this documentary where he hears that there were 2 twins who survived, born alive, were moving, and the abortionist drowned them and then used them for harvesting for their organs. Then they went undercover, posed as a biotech startup, and recorded the negotiations for pricing, etc. They also found that in this trial that just came out, or in this hearing that came out last week, that in order to use the heart, they would need to be removed beating. So, documented openly in medical literature using the Langendorf method, which is usually reserved for animals. You get the picture. There are people from Planned Parenthood and from STEM Express in this hearing that are talking about things that have happened to them and things that they have done. And one of them, known as Doe 2, talked about how they were changing their tactics so that when they did the procedure, they were removing viable samples. It's horrible. This is all true. This is all true. These are people from these companies who are saying this under oath in court. And then, we get into what really happened here and why these folks are the ones who were sitting there up possibly on 15 felony counts. And Kamala Harris was a big part of that. Jan Schakowsky, Zoe Lofgren, Jerry Nadler, and Yvette Clark sent a letter to Lynch requesting that they investigate to find out whether any laws were broken in what they called an elaborate multi-year scheme. Various chapters of Planned Parenthood donated $81,000 to Kamala Harris, who was the open advocate and ally of Planned Parenthood, who launched the investigation into these journalists. livid over the videos, 6 Planned Parenthood executives called a private meeting with Kamala Harris in March of 2016. And 2 weeks later, his apartment and vehicle were subject to a violent search and seizure in which 40 terabytes of data were seized unlawfully. David goes through the quote, goes through the story. It's quoted in the piece here for you guys. He also said that Kamala Harris herself was hell-bent on destroying him. Celia talks about the conversations that were had in this article, and they talk about how they tried to ship these parts via FedEx. They talk about how the Attorney General now in California attempted to gag this entire proceeding so that nobody would be able to hear what was going on in there. And there's more that I'm looking for. Hold on, I'm looking for one more fact before I let you guys go. Can't find it. Fusion GPS is what I'm looking for. There it is. Planned Parenthood hired Fusion GPS to discredit Merritt and David Daleiden. The 2017 report that Fusion GPS wrote claimed to have forensic evidence that the videos here were edited to create a false narrative and contained audio manipulation. And this was in an attempt to basically taint the information that was being presented to the public on the Center for American Progress's website. And there was just recently a judge who entertained there was a forensic company, well-known, respected forensic auditing company that came in and analyzed all of the footage and determined that they were not altered at all. Now, I know I sounded like I was all over the place with this one. Celia, God bless you for writing this. And I can't explain. I know it's hard to read. It's on Uncover DC right now. I know this is hard to read, and it's painful and terrifying. And whether you're pro-choice or pro-life, whatever you are, it doesn't matter. This should strike to your core. And I spent the day yesterday editing this and crying. And so I'm pretty much, it's horrifying. We had to get the story out there. Nobody's talking about this. Not enough people. You can find a handful of places chatting about it right now. I really want this to be something that people send to their friends, to their family, so that they understand the horror of what's happening here. It is absolutely evil what is happening here. It is, they're going around in an attempt to sell the parts. They're bucking procedures and I can't. Please read the article. That's all I'll say. It's really crazy. I want this out there because I think that as a media company, we have the responsibility to cover the story. And I think that the public has a right to know about this because this is funded by your tax dollars. So that's that. If you're on Twitter, watching on Periscope, you can find the link to this article on my Twitter account. If you are watching this on YouTube, I will link the article in the description box after the video is done. Now, I'm going to stop talking about this, but please take it very seriously. Throw Celia a little nod and hug because she had to go through this too and study all of the intertwining storylines and what happened, and that's not easy on anyone. And that's that. There's going to be a lot more coming in the coming days. I had a lot more things I want to talk about, but I've been on here with you guys for a while now, so I'm going to stop for the day. At least doing this. It's almost an hour. If you guys appreciate the work I do and you'd like to become a patron, you can find me on Patreon at patreon.com/TracyBeans with a Z. I also have Subscribestar at subscribestar.com/TracyBeans with a Z. You can also support Uncover DC if you go to uncoverdc.com and you click on on support. You will find information for PayPal. I will be introducing some really amazing stuff on Uncover DC very soon. We're growing. We have a lot in the pipeline. We have a lot coming up I'm so excited for because, truth be told, we need honest media, and I'm happy to provide it to you guys. Thank you all for everything, and I love you, and we will talk